Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Unleash Your True Beauty. Today, I have Veronica Monet joining us. Veronica is founder of the Shame-Free Zone and the Exquisite Partnership Formula. She is committed to helping others step into their personal empowerment and realize the freedom and joy that is their birthright. Veronica's own healing journey inspires others from around the world, bringing them hope and healing. Hi, Veronica. Thank you for being here.
Hi, I am so happy to be a part of your fabulous summit. And this is a great topic, unleashing your true beauty.
Yes, it definitely is because it goes in so many ways, right? Like the beauty is inside, the outside. It's however you want to unleash it. Just be free with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself and tell us about your healing journey.
Oh my goodness. I've had quite an interesting life. And I started off I was born into a doomsday cult. So
Doomsday cult. What's
from
that?
well, it was a Christian right-wing cult that believed that the world was going to end. So the church message was always doom and gloom, and we stockpile food, and we're supposed to like sew our own clothes, and were we survivalists? Not technically, that wasn't even a term then, but kind of getting ready for the end of the world, and we were separate from the rest of the culture. So we didn't even tell people where our church services was. I mean, that's what cults are about.
Yeah, very
Lots of
private.
control, lots of shame, and a lot of shaming of women's bodies. So what I remember as a teenager was our hemlines were monitored up to like the quarter of an inch. We were told that it could be a half an inch above the knee and a half an inch below the knee, but no more than that. So at the time, there were these midi skirts, that came down to the calf. I couldn't even wear those because that was
Wow.
hippie. That was hippie clothes. Um, so it was insane, really insane. Um, and I did leave the cult when I was 18, but this cult also was founded by a man who was molesting his daughter. It turned out, I mean, I don't know this. I was born in the cult. I don't know what's going on, but it turned out also that there were quite a few people molesting their children in this cult, my father being one of them.
Oh,
So
so
my
sad.
my journey starts with being in this oppressive cult and also being sexually abused by my father, who was, of course, very authoritarian and violent towards my mother. So that's a lot. That's a lot right there.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, when you have that kind of heavy trauma in your past, you tend to pick the wrong people and the wrong situations. And also, you just don't know how to have a healthy boundary and to take care of yourself. So, by the time I got to college, and I did get to college, I left the cult. I went to a real college, not the church college my mother wanted me to go to. Majored in psychology, and ended up getting raped by another guy on campus. So I'm an incest survivor, a rape survivor, and when I left college and fell in love, I ended up getting into a domestic violence relationship. I've also survived that. It's quite a bit.
Man.
Um, my healing journey really starts at age 25 when I enter a 12-step program for drug and alcohol addiction. Not surprising when you got all this trauma in your life to turn to drugs and alcohol to try to soothe the pain.
Of
But
course.
fortunately for me, that was very short-lived because I developed a cocaine habit that took me down real fast. And then I wound up in this spiritual program where I was bringing prayer and a conscious contact with my higher power into my daily life. And that's when the magic started to happen. I ended up getting my own television show. It's not like it was on community access, so it's not really like anybody was watching it. But I had a lot of fun learning how to be in front of the camera. And later on, I would become a sex worker rights activist, and I'd be all over CNN and Fox and the New York Times and a lot of other major media, including I was on Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect show with Howie Mandel years ago.
That's
So
awesome. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
and I want to tell you, it's not just a spiritual path. I also had to get a lot of therapy. So, and I really think I coach people now. I'm a relationship coach. I have a coach, a business coach. I have a therapist. Um, I think that that's really a path for a successful life.
yes, yes. I mean, with everything that you went through, it's just, I mean, for you to be able to stand here and share the story with that past and being able to get out of there, because that's a big thing too, is being able to leave a cult that, because they have so much power over you, they have so much control, and to be able to walk away from that and to leave. But then it's like, because you don't know any better, you're making these other decisions that are still hurting you, but you didn't know any better because of the way what you were seeing happening in this life that you were living. But to be able to get out of there is huge, and to share your story, I mean, that's so big.
Yes, and I founded something called the Shame-Free Zone. And one of the gifts I'm able to give my clients is a container that is very non-judgmental. So um, I like to tell people I probably have done it or had it done to me or know somebody. Um, so you're not going to shock me.
Mhm.
And it's not a matter of I'm trained not to react. I don't actually feel a reaction inside. What I feel is a lot of compassion and curiosity. And I really believe that no matter what has happened to any of us or what any of us have done, we can always change. We can always rebirth our lives. And there is in every one of us that is just this sacred little child, the same person that we came here as. And we just have to pull away all the pain and the trauma and the reactivity and learn how to deal with our tissues and our brain, because they kind of store that stuff and cause us to do things that may not work in our best interest. And as we
Mhm.
pull those away, we start to blossom.
Well, a lot of the times you have to like reface them in order to pull them away. And sometimes that's the hard part, is being able, like having to relive that moment to peel those layers off and then go deep into finding that innocent little girl that still lives inside of us, or that little girl that still lives inside of us that you're healing, but is trying to get to her. It's what's hard, and that's what you have to
It,
face in order to get there.
it is super difficult work. But one of the things that I want to assure your viewers is that it's a short lived pain. So think about it like this: you're ripping the band aid off, and yeah, it's going to be a big ouch. But then the wound gets to heal. If you don't, it just festers under there forever, and you start to get chronic inflammation. And okay, so I'm carrying this metaphor too far. Let's just bring it down to how it actually shows up in our lives. If we don't deal with the past and allow ourselves to re-experience that pain that you so aptly called out, because it is excruciating. There's no other way to say it. It's excruciating pain. I've spent lots of time in the fetal position, sobbing my eyes out. Um, and on the other side of that is so much freedom. And I like to think of it as a process of birthing myself. When I'm going through that, I'm birthing myself. So yeah, there's birthing pains. But
Mhm.
wow, what's on the other side of that is like laughter that goes to the tip of your toes, full body orgasms. I mean, it's just being really alive. And your creativity kicks in. You're able to really engage with life in a productive way. It's really amazing. And it's an ongoing process. I mean, for somebody like me who suffers from complex trauma, it's probably a lifetime thing. I will always be unpacking some of this stuff. And I'm really okay with that,
Mhm.
because the price of admission to me is very small compared to what is on the other side of that. It's
Mhm.
astounding.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And you're you're so like you're able to live without the shame. And I know that's why you create the shame-free zone, because it is a lot of, you hold a lot of shame and guilt inside of you and blame, and start thinking it's your fault that this happened, and it's your fault that you were treated this way. But it's not. So, and then they feel judged to come to somebody and ask for help, or that person's not going to believe them and think they're just lying or making up stories or just looking for attention. So it's really, it's such a hard place to be at when you someone can feel like they don't have the support. So did you, and I'm sure you probably went through the same thing when you were younger, but how was that for you? Like, did you have anyone supporting you?
Oh, when I was still in my family of origin, no support whatsoever. Uh, the phone was disconnected, the mail was censored. I mean, this really was an oppressive situation. I was kept out of public school, so I didn't have any teachers or counselors or peers. Nobody. It was just me and my sister, my mom and my dad, plus the church. Um, and so you start to think you're going crazy. The rest of my family denied that the violence and the sexual abuse was going on. They said it wasn't happening, and I knew it was. And I started to think I was maybe crazy. Um, and then later on, my mother came out of denial. Later on, my sister came out of denial. And it was such a relief to get that confirmation that, yeah, that stuff really did happen. My father never came out of denial. He died insane. He did. He stockpiled guns. He lived in a mobile home with all the windows blocked with black plastic. He just contracted into this fearful life. And I'm pretty sure he was a sexual abuse survivor himself. So it was a cautionary tale for me of what happens when you don't get any kind of therapy or support. And I've pursued all of it. I really have, everything from psychics to support groups, 12-step groups, internal family systems therapy, trauma informed yoga. There's so many beautiful modalities out there. And one of my favorite books was actually a New York Times best-selling book, I think for 5 years running, and that's The Body Keeps the Score by Vander Kolk. It's awesome. He really helps us understand that our trauma responses don't make us bad people. We're just injured, and it can be healed. But
Yeah.
you have to pursue some specific pathways for it. For instance, CBT, which is short for cognitive behavioral therapy, is not effective with trauma. EMDR is, internal family systems is, yoga is, even some journeys on things like psilocybin and MDMA. In Oregon and Washington now, they have those sanctioned legally, and you can go see a therapist who will take you on those journeys.
What does that look like? What kind of a journey is that? Is it more like an internal?
The therapist usually has a consultation with you first to kind of map out your trauma and figure out what needs to be addressed, and also prepare you for the actual journey on this particular plant medicine. And then the day of, it's just you and the therapist, maybe two therapists, depending on who you're working with. But the focus is just on you. It's not a party.
Right.
This is hard. This is hard work. So you would ingest the plant medicine and then put like a little eye mask on and listen to some meditative music, which kind of starts helping you free up and get into some of those memories.
Mhm.
And you might cry. Um, what's really great though is that these help you not feel like you're going to die from remembering. So
Mm.
it's really an aid to remember and then see yourself as separate from what happened to you. You get some sense of your higher self, that you are beautiful and perfect at your core, and just wounded on the outside.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow, that's actually very beautiful. And because sometimes that little bit of help, that extra, whatever it is that you need to use to open that up, of course, under, medical advice, and they're there with you to help you, but it's
Yeah.
also a, an opening to that's to the soul that you've held on to so tightly and you can't release. And a lot of people, like I've come across a lot of people too, where it's like, it's just out here. They don't want to go deep inside because it's too scary. They don't know what they're going to find.
Well, we kind of have only two choices here. We do the work and get well and live an incredibly conscious, engaged, vibrant life, or we don't take on that challenge. And we're probably going to go towards either an addictive or an avoidant pattern. So an avoidant pattern might look like you're always just skating the surface in your life, and your emotions will start to be kind of surface. Your sex will be kind of surface. It's not going to be that deep thing, and so you're always going to kind of have this sensation of something's lacking. I wish there was more.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the addiction path is very much about trying to fill the emptiness with something, whether that's gambling or food or shopping or sex or drugs, alcohol. Really doesn't matter. I mean, the outcomes are very different, but essentially you're just trying to numb your soul out so that you can't feel the pain. So,
Yeah,
I think a lot of people who aren't addicts choose the avoidant path. So they've just kind of got a low grade sense of dissatisfaction and a lack of fulfillment.
yeah, yeah, and not very connected at all either to anybody they come across. Yeah.
No, it's kind of eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, have sex, go to work, pay the bills, whatever. What's on Netflix?
Yeah.
And all those things are great, except are you experiencing them at a deep level that's really satisfying? Or is it more up here like,
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know that you're also a relationship coach and you're a certified sexologist and an anger specialist. So, what exactly is a sexologist?
a sexologist, if you look it up in the dictionary, is just somebody who studies sex. So I wrote a sex manual called Sex Secrets of Escorts in 2005. It was published by a major press, Penguin. It's out of print here in the US, but it's still selling like crazy over in the Czech Republic. Not entirely sure why that is. And I got certified as a sex educator through the San Francisco Sex Information. I spent a lot of years working with people's sexuality, and I got certified through the American College of Sexologists, and I think that was about 2007. So I have certifications, I've got education, and I've got experience and expertise. So I'm not just somebody who studies it, I'm somebody also who's practiced it. I've done a lot of different types of sex. So one of the things that I think that is unique about what I bring to my practice as a sexologist is I haven't just read books about it.
Yeah. You can speak from experience.
Yeah. As if you work with bodies, you know bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you really came out and embracing your body and just loving yourself and your body. And that's literally like you have unleashed and you're revealing your true beauty because you were able to heal all the trauma, everything that's happened to you in the past, and to be where you are now and to love your body when it was shamed before. That's huge.
It's not an easy thing when you have been sexually assaulted. You can start to feel like your body is a pain point, and that it's a problem, that it's attracting unwanted things to you. So really a lot of it was reorienting my mental maps so that I understood that I'm not responsible for what other people's actions are.
Mm-hmm.
That it doesn't matter what my sexual experience is. It doesn't matter what my sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter how I dress. And none of that is in any way, shape, or form causing what has been done to me to happen. But there's a big hurdle for most of us, and especially women, because society and even the law has often tried to tell us that we brought it upon ourselves, that somehow or another we're to blame. And it's very interesting. I wrote an article last year about rape, and I was fascinated to find that they'd actually done some research about who gets targeted for rape. And they interviewed convicted rapists in prison. And they actually said that they tend to pick on the woman who's dressed like a librarian. Who
Why
knew?
is that? That is weird.
Because
That's interesting.
that person looks like they will be less of a threat than the girl who's striding down the street in a miniskirt with a lot of confidence.
That makes sense.
So interestingly enough, a lot of times we're actually being set up to be victims by being told to not be confident, not step into our sexuality, worry about helping men not to do bad things to us. This is really a huge setup and a very big lie. It's not even the truth. So, yeah, I found that the more I embraced my sexuality, the more I made it about my pleasure, what I want, what I don't want, the more powerful I became in navigating my boundaries. And boundaries are key. They really are.
Yeah, you're so right. And it is also knowing when you embrace yourself and you go deep inside and start bringing all that out, it is so empowering. It's such a powerful feeling to really see that, yeah, I can do this, and to overcome all of that and to bring the love into yourself and love yourself no matter what you've been through, no matter any decision you've made. You're still lovable. You're still somebody that deserves love. And I think a lot of us, when we look at that and see our mistakes or what we've done or how we feel we were deserving of that, feels like, well, I'm not deserving of love, which means the love for ourselves is not there either. We feel we're not even deserving of that. So if we can't deserve love from other people, how are we going to deserve love from ourselves?
It's really helpful to find ways to rebut the voices in your head, because they were put there by other people. I have voices in my head that were put there by my father, in which case, whatever he did to me, I deserved. I brought it on myself. I have voices from society in my head that also tell me that everything that happens to me as a woman is my fault, and I could have prevented it in some way, some miraculous, magical way. I could have prevented it because I have so much power, but I don't, have that much power now, do I? Because we don't even have a female president. But but somehow women, yeah, right. I was like, we're responsible for everything, but we don't have any power. So bunch of contradictory messages that we're fed.
Yeah.
So when you find those voices, whatever they are, and we all have different voices that are talking to us, undermining our confidence, telling us we don't deserve whatever it is, whether it is to live our dream, to have the relationship that we want, to have the career that we want, whatever it is that we want to realize. I believe that the things you crave and desire and fantasize about, that's your true calling. That's not just an extracurricular thing that you're doing there. That's your soul talking to you. Please wake up. We have something to do here. Let's go do it. And all those voices that get in the way and try to interfere and stop you, most of them, in my experience, have come from outside. So if I can locate them, I can find what it is they're actually saying to me. I can create a reverse statement. Yeah. So, the simplest one though is the one I always used, the daddy voice in my head. I just say, "Thanks for sharing, Dad. Now go away."
Yeah, but you're so right on about that, because the voices that are in our heads are the ones that people put in there. And it's like somebody telling you or giving you just their opinion or whatever it is that they want to say, whether you welcome it or not. It's just they're going to give it anyways. And then you start to really pay attention to that and you give that energy, and then all of a sudden that's what it becomes, and that's who you become. And then it starts to go all downhill from there, from the moment somebody just whispered something in your ear.
Yeah, and there is one other thing too that I'm still exploring this. I've been exploring it for a few years, but I'm looking for some really solid research on the topic. But it is really about our oxytocin set points. So there's at this point kind of a theory that if you had a birth that was less than I don't want to say the word perfect, but the best birth that you could imagine, if you had one that maybe involved some kind of trauma, maybe it was a difficult birth for your mother, maybe you were whisked away right away and didn't get to bond with your mother, maybe they cut the umbilical cord a little too soon and it was an abrupt landing. Maybe you were spanked, maybe you were circumcised. I don't think they do that on the first day, but they usually do that on the third day. It is a way in which you have now a lowered um, ability to handle joy. Now, I don't know how much truth there is in this. Like I said, I'm still looking for some solid research on it, but I think it's an interesting thought. And along those same lines, some are noticing that people who come from traumatic past some resistance to full joy. It's almost as if a little warning light goes on inside and says, danger, danger. Um, Too much joy, you're going to get tricked somehow. So then you want to go back to being on guard and defended, and it cuts the joy out. So in that sense, we're sabotaging ourselves. And in a lot of ways, you could look at that as a survival mechanism. We're trying to lower our expectations so that we don't get disappointed
Mhm.
or fooled in some way. But it's also really sad
Mhm.
because we are tamping ourselves down, allowing ourselves to be full and happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. And that is an interesting point that you brought up, like from when you're the type of birth that you have or that's given, and how the child is taken from the mom, or if there's like any connection there. I would love to hear more about that and learn if that does have like a connection, because the physical touch, like the body touch. And I know when I had my baby that it was very important that we were skin to skin, because the babies need that physical, that warmth, and not just from the clothes, like he needed to feel my skin. So we did that a lot. But then also, you get to a point where you, like just said, it's like, okay, is there too much love? Can you love too much? Can you give too much love? And then how does that hurt you when you grow up too? Or does that hurt you? Or is that a good thing? I mean, those are all things that go through my head, where it's like everything that we do, it's yes, someone is going to be affected, everyone's going to be affected. But if I'm doing it from love and from my heart, and I don't think that you could ever give too much love. That's the way I feel. Others might feel completely different, and that's totally fine. But I feel that you could never give too much love to anyone. I mean, there is a difference between an obsessive love or just like a very caring, loving type of love. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think first to define what love is really helps. So I think of love as a verb. It's not just how I feel inside, because that's kind of about me, but how do I behave towards what I love?
Mhm.
Am I respectful? Do I honor boundaries? Do I listen? Am I curious? Those, am I capable of deep empathy? Those things are expressions of love.
Mm-hmm. Are you compassionate?
I absolutely agree with you. I do not believe there's any such thing as too much love in this world. We have some codependency parading as love. We've got control issues that say, I love you. But if it's authentic love, which is not about control or codependency, then there can't be too much of it. But I do think the culture has been preaching to the dangers of too much love for a few thousand years. And I think there's a really good reason that they did that, because they kind of wanted us to be a little more malleable and robotic. I mean, there was actually, has been some research about how you get mercenary soldiers. This would be men who get paid to fight in wars. And oftentimes, this is they kind of maybe even get a little bit addicted to it. How do you get them to stop killing? Well, in one instance, they married them off and they started families. So it's like love, bonding, oxytocin are really antithetical to a warring society. Fortunately, that kind of goes against the agenda of the governmental structures, the political structures, the religious structures that we have. And I'm not pointing to any particular politics or government or religion. I'm just saying that the container that occurs in really was predicated upon the idea of giving your life in service to this bigger entity. And in that case, it was kind of expedient to separate you from your mother, to separate you from your pleasure, to separate you from your internal guidance, to even separate you from your connection with the divine, and to create in you an inability to really connect fully with your joy, your authenticity, and your inner knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And yeah, it is. It's a connection with all of that. You're so right about that.
Yeah. So when a mother like you takes her baby to her breast right when it's born and gives it that skin contact, and you're not just helping that child, there's a way in which you're contributing to a more peaceful planet. That's how I see it.
Yes, it's a whole bigger picture than just that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right. You're so right. Gosh, it's so good talking to you. I love just all this information that you share, just your whole journey. Thank you for sharing all that with us, because I know that's very like personal and deep, and I really appreciate you opening up to me and to our audience. Thank you so much, because it's a lot, but look where you are now. You know what I mean? It's like, look how you were literally able to break free, and the life that you're living now, and helping others and being there for others, especially with what they've gone through. The same thing as you. It's just the trauma, the shame, the guilt. It's yeah, it's so much. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to share it. It's my joy and my pleasure to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Now I know that you do have a gift for the audience. Do you want to share what that is?
Yeah, just briefly, I want to tell you a little bit about it. It's called the Exquisite Partnership Formula. This is one of my key offerings, and it comes in the form of an ebook. It's 10,000 words and it's full color. It's absolutely gorgeous. I promise you don't have to read the whole thing. I'm sure very few people do, but you can skim through and find some key things in there. And it's really based upon creating heart connection with the people that you love. So there's a formula in there for how to take a successful timeout. That would be like when things get hot, a lot of times couples just say, well, I can't talk about this right now, or they just walk out of the room and slam the door. Nothing ever gets solved. There's a rupture in the connection and the trust at that point. So I have a formula for making sure that you can step away from each other without hurting each other physically or emotionally, and then come back together and knit your hearts together. And there's a very specific steps to take to do that. There's also a game in there. It's called Show Me Your Movie. And this is an empathy game that my partner and I play all the time. It's beautiful. You just kind of suspend your reality to step into your partner's reality for a time. And then they take a turn doing that with you. Really brings couples closer together, builds a lot of trust and empathy. And then there's also the actual exquisite partnership formula, which is a 5-step process to saying a very firm no while pulling your partner closer to you. And if you sign up for that, you also get 3 of my very best podcasts. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.
pretty good.
That is a wonderful gift. That's perfect. And that's like, it's great to be able to have those tools, because I know that a lot of couples, including myself, there are times where my husband and I argue, and there are words that are said that, we feel bad about later. And we really have gotten better with it. But it's also to that point where it's like, I'm not ready to talk right now. Let's talk about this later, rather than just somebody walking out the room or stumbling out of the room. It's more of a, we're not at a good place to be talking right now.
Yes.
So.
And I want to give you one of the keys. One of the keys is not just that we'll talk about it later, actually make an appointment. Because the ball gets dropped over and over and over again. And I see it in my office all the time. Couples come in and they have a long litany of conversations that never got finished. So you want to make sure you finish the conversation. Otherwise, what's ended up happening is it just kind of creates more and more of a disconnect. So you guys aren't on the same page. And ultimately, with my clients, that affects their sex life in an adverse way too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because all of that everything gets affected. So it's like emotionally and mentally, you're not feeling it. Your heart's not there. So yeah, it's the moment all of that gets fixed, everything else starts to align.
True. Oh yeah, I know. So I'll leave you with this kind of humorous side note. As a sexologist, I spend very little time talking about sex. I work with my clients around their communication skills, their anger management skills, and the sex tends to pick up and become much better once we get those 2 things addressed.
Yes, exactly. Because, the men and women, especially, our needs are different. I think women just desire men in a different way than the men desire women, or what their needs are and how to meet those needs. And I think that once the communication and you're like all of these other steps, you're on the same page and you're continuing to grow together rather than apart, then I think the sex just starts to get better and better, because now everything else around you is healing, and you're both working to make it better and to bring that gap closer, to close that gap really.
Well, I work with clients of a lot of different gender orientations. So I don't usually work with an idea that men are this way and women are that way so much, because there is now such a broad gender spectrum and a lot of different expressions of that.
Yes.
But I do know what you're pointing to. I have some sense of it anyway. Let's see if I'm right. What I understand is that for most female identified people who have been raised in the culture, there is a desire to connect emotionally. And for a lot of male identified people who've been raised in the culture as males, they're going to be a little more focused on the sex act, maybe frequency and duration and positions and things like that. And while that is how it shows up, I don't deal with it as, oh, this is natural because this person has a penis and that person has a vagina.
Mm-hmm.
I deal with it as this is our training. And a lot of the men that I work with, I'm actually able to help them move into a much deeper, more rewarding experience of their sexuality by bringing in some of these feminine traits,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa, helping them to start expressing themselves just in a little bit more, you could say masculine, but maybe we'd just say more assertive, more present, more engaged way.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually really quite beautiful to help people become more fully expressed human beings.
Yes. Yeah. And, I didn't mean to like separate the two, because I know it's different for everybody, right? Everyone has different feelings with it. It's not a separation between a man has to feel this way and a woman has to feel this way. It's like you said, it's an overall being that all of us are trying to find the same, the feeling that works for us, no matter whether you're a man or a woman, whatever. It's whatever feeling works for you is what you get to move forward with, and to grow, and to really live in that emotional state that you want to be in.
Yes, and if we can get curious about ourselves and about each other, we might find out that we didn't know actually what we liked as well as we thought we did. There might be other aspects of ourselves that are just kind of aching to come to the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right about that. It's just gotta go deep. Go in there.
It takes some courage, but my God, how many of us take on, exciting, adrenaline-filled sports? I know for myself, scuba diving, flying airplanes, very dangerous sports, thrilling.
Yeah.
Used to love all the
Dangerous,
rides,
scary.
the amusement parks. So if you have that groove, you could apply it to personal growth as well.
Anything is possible. We can make anything happen. And there's a group of women to support each other, or women, men, and we're all here to support each other. When you fall, we'll pick you right back up and continue on your journey. Oh, it was so great having you. But before I let you go, so my last question for you, I've been asking all my speakers, if you were to describe yourself using one word, what would that one word be?
Oh, definitely shameless.
Yes, yeah, for sure. For sure.
I was accused of that on more than one talk show, and they thought it was an insult.
You're like, nope.
I was like, thank you. That is very definitely what I am.
Yeah, and it's a good word. You should not be offended or insulted by that. You just stay proud with it.
Yeah.
Well, it's great having you, Veronica. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I can hear your little dog in the background there. I want to say hi to him too.
No, he's barking because you probably heard my garage door opening,
Yeah.
vacuum going on because the cleaning people were here. I'm like, you probably heard all this stuff. And I'm like,
well,
I didn't know what else to do. This is my life right now.
it's great. It's great. I'm just, it says a lot about you. You've got a beautiful animal and beautiful child, and you're a beautiful mother.
Thank you. Thank you. And you are so beautiful. And I'm so honored to have met you. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, everyone.